Good morning, beloved community. My name is Cathy, and I have been a member of this community since 1997. And I am so grateful to be breaking open the word with you today. I've given a lot of homilies since 1997, and many of you know, but I often like to start them out with a joke. But I found that while some jokes about Labor Day are pretty good, most of them just don't work. You see what I did there? Just don't work. All right. Again, the beauty of Zoom is that I am imagining that you are laughing uproariously, even though I can't hear it. So just let me live in that little dream world. This has been a challenging homily for me to write, in part because I know that I am standing in front of many labor organizer legends. Adam Robinson, Matt Gladue, Tom Beer, Jenny Downey, and so many others. I am grateful for the witness that you have provided to ensure the basic rights of workers in our community, and I'm grateful for the many years that you have all stood in this pulpit on this Sunday to implore us to act in solidarity with fellow workers. I do not hold the deep experience of union organizing that many of you do, and so I will instead go to what I know. Most of you know, but perhaps not all, that I work for the Lift Garage, a nonprofit auto repair shop that provides low-cost car repair for low-income Minnesotans. While that is our primary mission, we also take great care and pride in how we live our values of justice, opportunity, and grace. One of those ways those values are lived out is through our labor and hiring practices. But more on that later. When we start to see, as we hear from Joan Chittister, that work is sacrament, then we cannot help but see both the work and the worker as holy, the embodiment of God's grace and love. And once we see, we cannot unsee. Rita Steinhagen, CSJ, once told me about her time in prison that she now had the burden of knowing. Burden not necessarily meaning a heavy load, but rather the truth that you now carry what you see, and so you must act. I believe that once we begin to see each worker and their work as holy, it changes everything. The late Archbishop Oscar Romero says it this way: how beautiful will be the day when all the baptized understand that their work, their job, is a priestly work. That just as I celebrate Mass at this altar, so each carpenter celebrates Mass at his workbench, and each metal worker, each professional, each doctor with a scalpel, the market woman at her stand, is performing priestly office. How many cab drivers I know listen to this message there in their cabs? You are a priest at the wheel, my friend, if you work with honesty, consecrating that taxi of yours to God, bearing a message of peace and love to the passengers who ride in your cab. The way this looks at the lift is that from the very, very beginning, we made a conscious decision to not do background checks, drug testing, or even require a valid driver's license, which is unheard of in the auto repair industry. We believe these are unnecessary barriers to fair, just employment. We pay a living wage with a great benefit package that begins at 25 hours a week and a culture that values the whole person. We do not want to be a nonprofit that works to move people out of poverty while keeping our own employees in poverty wages. The Lift is thriving in no small part because of the quality and commitment of our workers. They feel valued. They know they are part of something bigger and that we are working collectively to create a better world around us. Collectively is an important word. If any worker at the lift is heard saying, "That is not my job," when they are asked to do something, they face consequences. Those words are not allowed because it is our collective job to do whatever it takes to get the work done that day and to move our customers' lives forward with kindness and dignity. I am very, very proud of how the lift approaches work and supports our team. But I do not tell you all of this to brag. But I tell you this to remind you of what I know you already know. If the tiny lift garage nonprofit can do this, then we know dang well that Target and Walmart and Wells Fargo and Cargill and so many others can absolutely do this. I am aware, though, that the lift and most nonprofits are actively and sometimes eagerly, honestly, participating in a system that rewards and encourages capitalism and profits. Large corporations make obscene amounts of money, then give a pittance of that away to the community. We nonprofits fight with other nonprofits for this pittance, while the corporation sits on their piles of profits, but gets to feel magnanimous about their perceived big-hearted generosity. But if we stopped begging for their scraps and insisted that they pay their workers justly and treated their work as holy, I believe that chances are high that many of our nonprofits would not even need to exist. So I live in this tension regularly. Am I and the lift actively perpetuating an unjust system in the name of doing good? Is it possible to keep meeting the needs of the people while we also work to overthrow the system? I believe that's what Jesus modeled for us through his life and clearly in today's gospel. He heals one human, meeting the needs of the people, but in doing so, he was also overthrowing the system of oppression that kept people silent. He invited the man he healed to both hear and proclaim. In doing so, the man becomes the symbol of God's desire for wholeness and freedom in all of the beloved, especially those on the edges, those who are unclean and unwelcome. This turns the whole world order on its head. And Jesus did so by doing a very simple but very huge act of touching and healing. He did things the way they had never been done before, and in doing so, gave hope and promise to the people. This was a literal act of bringing someone to their senses, helping them to see and experience the world in a new way that requires them to act. Who is bringing us to our senses? Who are we helping to bring to their senses? Jesus teaches us that charity and justice are not opposing acts. Rather, the sometimes subversive act of healing one human can lead to a landslide of other healings. In 2014, only months after the lift had opened, I met Charlie. He was homeless, living in his truck, slowly coming out of a serious drug addiction, and had no driver's license. Charlie also happened to be a master certified mechanic. I was hoping for any sort of mechanic. The corporate world would have advised me not to touch this man with a 10-foot pole. Jesus would advise me to pull him to the side and offer whatever healing we could. So we offered him a job. For the next 7 years, he worked at the lift, has been stably housed for most of those years, has housed others with him when they needed it, has been reunited with a family that missed him deeply. On Tuesday night, just a few hours after I finished writing Charlie's story in the first draft of this homily, I got the call that Charlie died. His work on cars, from engines to suspensions, was indeed holy, my friends. He sanctified the world for many of our customers and was indeed sanctified by his work. The first reading today admonishes us to show no favoritism. But let's be real, Charlie was my favorite. Charlie's life turned my world order on its head. I know that he is one of the many who have helped bring me to my senses, and I believe he would say that I helped bring him to his. We did this together, mutually, personally, and collectively. This, my friends, is the part of the landslide of healings to which Jesus the healer calls all of his disciples. May the words of Joan Chittister guide us always. I finally come to know that my work is God's work, unfinished by God, because God meant it to be finished by me. So, my friends, there is plenty of unfinished work to do. Let's get to it. Amen.